You said that some of the reaction was overblown, but it was seen as a bit of a good cop, bad cop type of setup where the Treasurer says, I'm not going to comment, no comment. You did comment and sort of indicated, as I said, you did want to see further rate rises, and you're talking about pressure on those with fixed mortgages, and you said that that's why we think there's already a fair bit of pressure in the system. I'm just wondering, was it coordinated? Did you or your staff speak to the Treasurer's office or the Prime Minister's office or them personally to tell them you were going to go out and do that?
Yeah, thanks. Kieran, good attempt, mate. I'm not going to comment on the comments that have been made. I have said what I said, and let me put it to you this way. I don't think there's an Australian, I think there's a Member of Parliament, and I don't think there's an Australian who looks with joy upon a series of interest rate increases. It's our job to explain the government's policy, our fiscal policy, to explain the importance of keeping a lid on inflation and bringing it down, and the role of monetary policy in that process. It is a matter of fact that we've had 10 interest rate increases since May last year. Some of the impact of that has not yet been felt. Some of it has, as some of the data we're seeing come through, the published data we're seeing come through. So it's a matter of fact that some of that's been felt, some of that hasn't. I'm not going to comment on monetary policy determination. That's a job for the Independent Reserve Bank. I can confirm that the government is committed to ensuring that from its part of the economic policy management, that is fiscal policy, the amount of money we spend, the message is restraint. The message is ensuring where we are delivering targeted relief, that it has a productivity benefit, and that we're ensuring that we do our bit to fix up some of those supply chains, repair those supply chains that were so damaged over the last 5 years and are a cause of some of the inflationary pressure in the system.
Can you see why, though, a lot of people would think that you did sort of coordinate the approach, that you would have cleared it with the Prime Minister or Treasurer, their offices, before you went out? Because you did go out pretty hard. I know you're saying it's overblown, but the language is clear. You say, we're hoping that we don't see further interest rate increases, and that was seen by many as undermining the independence of the RBA's approach. It's not like you're Joe Bloggs, you're the Assistant Treasurer.
Can I just put it to you this way? Do you think turn your head around the Sky studio and talk to anyone with a mortgage and ask any of them, are they hoping for another interest rate increase? You will find nobody who is saying they are hoping for further interest rate increases. And I think as night follows day, you won't find a Member of Parliament who's hoping for further interest rate increases, which is why it's incumbent on all of us to ensure the fiscal policy and monetary policy are working in tandem. And that's what the Albanese government's focused on. Again, I don't intend to comment on the comments on the comments on the comments. My job is explaining what the government's economic policy is, and I'm doing that day in, day out.
So there was no request for you to ease back or refrain from that commentary by the Prime Minister or the Treasurer?
Again, my job is to go out there and explain the government's economic policy, and I'll continue to do that as forcefully as I do every day, and you would know that. I don't take a backward step on these things. We've picked up a mess in terms of the state of the budget, supply chain shot to pieces, a need for us to work really hard to repair the economy, doing all of this at a time with significant inflationary pressure internally, most of it received overseas. So we've got a job of work to do. I'll, every day, Kieran, with you and others, explain that forcefully.
And so, yeah, they didn't ask you to ease up at all, the Prime Minister or Treasurer? They said go for it?
I'm not going to comment on any of those things. I'll go out day after day, Kieran, and I'll explain what the government's economic policy is, and that is to ensure fiscal restraint, repairing the supply chains that have been so poorly managed and damaged by the previous government, and ensuring that we can provide relief to households. And in doing that, the Independent Reserve Bank will set monetary policy. If you can find somebody out there who's cheering for an interest rate increase, I'd love to hear from them. I know from time to time the opposition likes to celebrate some of this sort of stuff. But as far as the government's going, we're ensuring that we manage the economy in a way that puts downward pressure on interest rates, because we know how much that matters to households and small businesses.
Indeed. So is it important that the states do the same thing? I want to ask you about the superannuation objective in a moment, but first, today we're seeing the New South Wales Teachers Federation call on Chris Minns to deliver a pay rise the starting point should be a pay rise of 5 to 7%. Are you worried that some of the spending at the state level is just as risky in terms of the inflationary impact?
You raise a good point. We're only one part of the overall budgetary policy of the nation, if you like. States and territories have also got a role to play to ensure that all of their new spending, or all of their spending, I should say, is not making a bad situation worse. I've got to say I was very impressed. I attended a campaign launch with Chris Minns yesterday on the South Coast near my hometown, and I was impressed with his understanding of the problems we've got in our energy system, his commitment to invest in battery storage and to ensure that state government in New South Wales is investing in battery storage to bring power prices down and more energy security in the New South Wales.
Would you urge him to be cautious about some of those other proposals as well, in terms
I think
of
all states and territory governments have got to be cautious about what they are promising and the size of their fiscal spend in an environment where we should all be working as a part of Team Australia to bring inflation pressures down and therefore interest rates down over time.
Why is a clarified objective around superannuation, why is that needed? Can you explain to our viewers what the government's doing on that front?
Yeah, look, we were having a look at this. We're not the first to propose to do this. A number of reviews over the last 20 years have said a legislated objective of superannuation would help to focus public policy. But I guess what accelerated our thinking over the last 4 or 5 years has been the fact that superannuation has been used or thought of as like a magic pudding. Whenever there is a failure in some other area of public policy, whether it be health, whether it be in the middle of the pandemic, whether it be housing, sometimes education, sometimes domestic violence, people have jumped up and said, well, why don't we use superannuation to fund this? And behind all of those suggestions lies another failure in another area of public policy. And superannuation, people always get the bright idea and says, oh, why don't we dip into super to solve that? And of course it's wrong-headed, because if super is the answer to everything, it won't be there for anything. So back to TORS, what is it that we set this system up for? The objective is retirement income, saving for retirement income. Let's have a national discussion about that. Let's legislate it and use that as the touchstone for every other proposition that comes up down the track about what we're using superannuation for, or indeed all the other things that surround our superannuation system.
So would this move prevent a future government from using super in the event of a pandemic for early access, as we saw in recent years, or for a first home buyer scheme? Would this change prevent that from happening?
Look, good question. Like, in strict legal sense, what one government does, another government can come along and undo. So in a strict legal sense, no. But I think in the sense that what we are attempting to do is focus the nation's attention on this incredibly important piece of public policy, which has been universally around the world seen as an enormous success, a magnificent success. Close to $3.5 trillion worth of retirement savings owned by Australians for their retirement. eventually taking pressure off the budget and ensuring that people can live a better retirement. In every aspect, you'd have to say it was a success. How can we ensure that continues to be a success by ensuring it's sustainable? How can we focus the nation's attention on why we're doing this so that on a daily, a weekly, a monthly basis, when people see money coming out of their pay towards their superannuation, when they get their annual statements, they go, I know what that's for. And it's a good way also of us measuring, critiquing, accepting or rejecting future policy proposals, because we'll have said the nation as a whole has agreed that this is the purpose, this is the objective of superannuation. And that idea either aligns with it or doesn't align with it.
Assistant Treasurer Stephen Jones, appreciate your time. Talk to you soon.
Good to be with you, Kieran.